tell you that President Muhammadu Buhari was in Katsina State today alongside the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And it was a homecoming of some sort for President Buhari, who took the presidential candidate and raised his hand at the podium. For the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar, he was in Benue State, where he's promised the people of Benue State that he will ensure that he stops the issue of killing and ethnic clashes should he be elected as president. What about the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi? He was in Ilorin in Kwara State. As soon as he touched down at the international airport in Ilorin, he went straight to the emir of Ilorin's palace before he went to the rally ground to speak to the supporters. And part of the stories that we are following for you as our major story is some of the political parties have gone to court getting an injunction to stop the CBN of thinking of suspending the Naira note swap policy. 3 states, Kogi, Kaduna, and Zamfara State have also gone to court over this matter. The Buhari government under the APC will be wrapping up the business, their business, which they engaged with Nigerians in the past 7 years or so, about May this year. But after 2 terms in office, how would you say the Buhari government have fared, considering that the party is seeking re-election? There is a man popularly referred to as a poster boy of the Buhari cabinet. From the first term, he's a former governor of Lagos State, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Mr. Babatunde Fashola is our guest tonight. And he's been superintending over the Works and Housing Ministry over the last 7.5 years or so. Tonight, Mr. Fashola joins me live here in our election studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Fashola. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to you and to viewers.
Been saying for the first time, isn't it? So, although it's February, though.
Yeah, I'm seeing you for the first time.
Thank you so much.
Let me commend your organization for the investment in this new studio, and it shows that you're here for the long term.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's more beautiful to the eyes than even what you see on television.
Precisely so.
Thank you so much. Let's get started. I'd like to make an assessment because there is so much that are being imputed in this government. And you as a person, a lot burden was put on your shoulder. Let me begin with perhaps one project that a lot of people will be expecting to get an update on, and that is the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. In July 24, 2022, you were on Sunday Politics on Channels Television, and quote, you said, "We are hoping we will be done before Christmas." What is the state of things now?
Okay, we have 2 contractors there, RCC from kilometer 44 to kilometer 127. They are currently at about kilometer 117. So we have just about 10 kilometers more on that stretch. We have Julius Berger from kilometer 43.9 to kilometer 0 at Ojota. They're working on about the last 3 kilometers into Lagos. Where we are is that everybody who uses that road now will tell you that there's a remarkable difference, and it is a difference for the better. So it's a work in progress. We haven't finished, but clearly journey times have reduced significantly, and that is the purpose of investing in a road network. So in half the time that our opposition, main opposition, had to address that problem, we have almost solved it.
So you couldn't meet the deadline that you set, the timeline that you set? In
construction, deadlines, and at the time we were talking, there were so many things that have moved across the world. Price of products, there's been a pandemic that nobody foresaw, there's been a war that has affected logistics and supplies, and you and every fair-minded person know that some of the construction inputs are imported. So those deadlines move. There are challenges about right-of-way, setbacks, and so on and so forth. So, but it's a continuous operation. There are days when, because of the behavior of some commuters, the road gets locked down until law enforcement and traffic management comes to ease it. During that period, too, our construction materials is trapped inside it. So, for example, in Christmas, because of the heavy traffic, we had to open it, stop construction for almost about a month. in order to make it less burdensome, to make the commuter experience at that time more pleasant. We opened up all of the places where we barricaded, because we have to barricade for the safety of the construction workers too. So we don't want trucks, vehicles to run into them. They're Nigerians just like you and I. So those are things that shift some of these predictions. And
so do we have a new date for the completion of the
we're
Lagos
expecting that we
Expressway?
will finish before the end of this term, sometime in between April and May. But work is going on. If you go there, you find our contractors there working.
So it's possible that President Buhari will commission that road before leaving office?
I am optimistic that he will do so, but really and truly, commissioning is a ceremonial thing. Cut tape and we go. The truth is that over 90% of the road essentially is in use by the people who need it most. And the experience is better. And that is the more important thing, rather than just coming to cut tape.
So have you settled the issue of concession on that road?
No, concessioning will come later, because the NSIA that keeps the funds for the recovered funds for payment of contractors is also looking to attract investment. But the important thing first is to build the assets, and then you can bring private sector capacity to manage it. That was one of the mistakes that our main opposition and predecessors did. They expected that one individual, it's not any fault of his in that sense, one individual will raise enough money, about 200 and something billion naira. Who was going to lend 200 billion naira in this economy for a 25, 30, 35-year asset? Who is giving 35-year money? These are responsibilities of government to build the social assets. Then you can then bring private management into it. And that is the superiority and difference of thinking in terms of both of us. We got the job done substantially in less the time that they had the opportunity to do it, and nothing happened.
Maybe but you were exposed to more funding than they were. Could that also be the case?
I think you need to just look at the cycle. The biggest source of revenue for this government, for the Nigerian government until recently, when we started doing better in the non-oil sector, was oil revenues. Oil revenues reached $140 in their time. But instead of fixing critical assets and critical infrastructure, what did they decide to do? They did not want debt, so they left the assets. They picked $12 billion cash and went to pay to redeem debt. But immediately after that, they started borrowing again. So those are economic choices that Nigerians will have to make in the next few weeks and see which model is better. Oil prices tanked to less than $40 when we came in. A recession that they foretold in 2014. They said a recession was coming. That's what we inherited. Construction workers were laid off. I was addressing them today. One of them, out of 5 that I spoke to in 2015, one of them had laid off 5,000 workers. And government was owing that company $3 billion. Today, they're employing workers by the hundreds of thousands because we brought them back to work. And I told them today, go and vote for your business. It's not partisan anymore. Go and vote for who has done you a better deal.
And I'd like to ask you, if we touch on all of the projects you promised as a government, we might not leave here today. But I'd like to touch on those ones that are perhaps the biggest of those projects. And the second one that comes to mind is the second Niger Bridge. There was a time during the festive period that you opened up a segment of that road to commuters. That to brighten the minds of a lot of people that have been looking forward to that road being constructed, that channel being opened or bridge being constructed. What is the estimated time? Because the time that you also set, and I don't want to keep going back to your timeline, because if I quote you back and back on your timelines, it means that you've not been able to meet a lot of them. But this time around, what is your realistic target of finally opening up that road 100%?
Okay, when you are talking about these assets, I think it's important to understand also that infrastructure is not the end. Buhari never campaigned on infrastructure, he campaigned on the economy. And I don't see what you can realistically do in any economy where the infrastructure is aging, it is insufficient, and it is broken. So he campaigned on, so infrastructure is just a means to get the economy back on the road. One party says that, oh, we will privatize it. We've seen the attempt to privatize the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and for 16 years it didn't produce a road. We also saw the attempt to privatize the second Niger Bridge, and for about 5 or 6 years, between 2010 and 2015, there was no bridge. Buhari understands, the APC understands, this government understands that this is a social investment. The government has to lead that investment. And so we have made that investment. Bridge is finished. The Onitsha side road is essentially finished. It's the link road on the Asaba side. And again, so that you understand, these are not items for celebration for us. They are essentials of government to drive the larger objective, which is to move people. So the River Niger is just a few kilometers, barely 2 kilometers. People used to spend 18 hours there. And the president said, look, since you finished the bridge, they can use the construction road. Why don't you open it to the public? And we did just that. And the results and the impact was tremendous. 18 hours, sometimes the whole day, became a matter of minutes. So that shows you the relationship between infrastructure development, quality of life, and so on and so forth. So what we expect now is that before around the 15th of May, thereabouts, the timeline we have. But don't forget, some of these timelines also shift because of the local circumstances. For like 2.5 or 2 years, it has been difficult to work in parts of that place because they stopped work on a Monday. So if you look at the number of days we've lost over 2 years, you must factor it into some of these moving targets. Then there are compensation issues that people don't see. We have to relocate all the 132 kV lines, transmission lines across. We have to shut down power between those states. We have to work with electricity companies. So these are things that we don't control. We make estimates based on our reality, and then we deal. So it shows, first of all, a government that is planning. Plans can move. That is the reality of life. But at least we have a plan. And bridge is finished. One side of the link road is completed. It remains 4 kilometers of work. I think we deserve every commendation. We've done what the opposition couldn't do. It was an electoral promise. It's now a real bridge. Bodo Boni Bridge, the road that should link Nigeria's most prolific gas production resource, where we take a lot of money. There was no road for centuries. There were 3 failed attempts to build that bridge. It's going to be finished in December of 2023. I've been there a couple of times. Your crew have covered it. So some of the heavy lifting, the Apapa Oronshoki Road, built since 1975, these are economic assets. They lead to ports. They lead also discharge petroleum products. That's how you get an economy going. Almost finished.
Yeah, Mr. Fashola, Nigeria has about 36,000 kilometers of federal roads.
Yes.
Can you tell us tonight how many or what is the percentage of that of these kilometers of road have you been able to fix or do since you got into office over 7 years?
At the last count, I think in the last quarter of last year, first month of the last quarter, we had over 13,000 kilometers of road under construction. And as at that time, we had covered about 8,000 kilometers of road. Just this morning, we were presenting another check, symbolic check of 110 billion naira for Sukuk. And the Sukuk on its own, that intervention alone, has covered about 2,800 kilometers of road. Some of the roads, you know, the Outer Marina in Lagos, or your Ogbomoso, there's a lot, and you see the signs. So people see, so when people are talking about debt, yes, it is good to have a conversation about debt, but there are alternatives to debt. Let us look at them. Should we increase taxes? Another alternative is, should we stop the project? So when people are talking about debt, they don't talk about assets. So that Sukuk funding, which is debt, has brought 2,800 kilometers of road. Those are assets. So that's why I call them home economists. They don't know public finance and nation building. Because the truth is that when you are talking about debt and cash, what are your assets? These are the assets that will last, excuse me, for at least another 1 or 2 generations.
So, Mr. Fashola, when you talk about this infrastructure, and I'll take you to one. I'm driving home a question here with this very slide. And I'll use South Africa as an example. South Africa is the second largest economy in Africa with over $405 billion. And that's after Nigeria. South Africa has the 9th longest road network with over 891 kilometers of road, and the 10th longest rail network. South Africa's GDP grew by 2.3% in Q3 of 22, while Nigeria grew by 2.96%. Nigeria is not ranked. There is a strong correlation between infrastructure spend and economic growth. South Africa does not have many uncompleted projects like Nigeria. My question is, Mr. Fashola, how come South Africa is able to do this and Nigeria cannot?
First of all, you have to understand that there are different constitutional arrangements in South Africa. South Africa is not a federal republic. We are a federal republic. And so there are interchanges between levels of government. But more importantly, when was all of this South Africa's infrastructure built? Essentially, most of it was built before the independence, the liberation of South Africa when Mandela was released. Essentially built by their network and their affiliations with Europe. So if you go into South Africa, I've been there, I think the last time I went there was about 3 or 4 years ago, you will see also the infrastructure is aging. Now, there was an injection of new infrastructure, the Gauteng Rail, expansion of Oliver Tambo Airport, and a few other facilities when they hosted the 2010 World Cup. And those are some of the things that we should be doing in order to build infrastructure. So I'm not sure that the correlation you are trying to do, that South Africa does not have unfinished infrastructure. They have aging infrastructure. They can't even finance infrastructure spend now. That is the truth. That economy is breaking down. You can see their last 2 years or so, the ratings of some of their economy, junk rating. That's what they call them. So there are no comparisons. But they've built an infrastructure base that we need to replicate. So you will see us expanding our airport. So you will see us building a new seaport. You will see us supporting private sector, investing in a new refinery led by the Dangote Group. You will see rail beginning to evolve. And so these are things that we should have done when we took $12 billion out of this economy.
So I'm asking Mr. Fashola because...
I'm answering you.
No. The question I'm asking is there should be a correlation between infrastructure, which you mentioned, that the promise of your government is about fixing the economy. Yeah. And there should be a direct correlation. When you're fixing infrastructure, it will bring some trade and commerce benefit. And that's why I took you to the economy.
Let me go there. Let me answer now.
Just a moment, because I want to add this so that this is like a background to the question I want to ask you. So if you spent a lot of money on some of these projects, some of them are now debt as a burden on Nigeria, then what benefit or how do we hope to maintain them or pay back these debts? Are there plans?
So there are two things. If you go through the quarterly GDP results, right, when the recession broke, when there's a recession generally, the first sector that is hit most is services sector. And it is the last to recover. Go and look at the last 3, 4, 5, 6 GDP results and look at the first 4 when the recession started. Services sector is back. That's when you know that you're out of recession and the trajectory is growth. And that is what our candidate is saying now. I want to double that growth. First response. The second response is that if you go and look, I gave you the figures when we started. The recession was predicted before we came. And I gave you some figures. One construction company had lost about 4,000 jobs, laid off people. Those jobs are back. So if you go and look in the GDP result, the sectoral breakdown, you will see transportation sector performing. It's not performing only because of rail and air. It's performing because the road network, the road sector is coming back. You talked about Lagos Ibadan. You didn't talk about Kano Maiduguri. We talked about Papa Urushoki. It used to be gridlock. It didn't move. So if you go and look at the quarrying sector, jobs are back. The number of quarrying companies have doubled. I released those figures today in the presentation that we did. Some have risen by 50%, some by 90%. Go and look at...
how are these not affecting the unemployment figures?
No, just wait a minute. We're talking now economy and growth. First of all, we talk about... Some sectors have claimed back jobs. Some sectors have also lost jobs. And this is the reality of the modern economy. As technology is moving in and taking place of certain things, some jobs will be lost. Even in Channels TV, some jobs have been lost because of your embracement of innovation, or you have reskilled and retrained other people to go and do other things. This is the real life. Some companies have shut down. They are shutting down across the whole world. This is the reality. Now, are we growing enough to take everybody on? Not yet. But to the question you dare ask, how do you get out of a bad economy? You want to produce, according to one of the candidates. How do you produce without infrastructure? Where is the production going? If you don't have power, if you don't have roads to transport it, if you can't move it by sea, you can't clear it at the port, those economic models are not going to work. This is the backbone of the future for Nigeria. And it's been done. It's not complete, but the backbone is there. Right. Look at those periods when we used to say a glory period. That was the period we built most of the infrastructure. That was when we built Tinkan Island and all of that. So we need to go again.
We need to take a break now. When we come back, although the time I allotted for infrastructure has taken a lot more time, but there are a few issues that are like, I mean, you are the man who's always talking about tolling. Is it possible? How can we sustain and maintain these roads? The old Abeokuta road, have you resolved the issues with the governor of Ogun State? These are some of the issues. Then we'll come to your former principal, Bola Tinubu. Is it the person that is fit to handle the affairs of Nigeria in 2023? I'll be asking you some of these questions after this break. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Many thanks, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. Of course, we will soon get to the breaking news that you can see scrolling on your screen right now. Part of the conversation we'll be having on the program tonight. Let's get back to our conversation with former governor of Lagos State and the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed. I was going to tell you that perhaps the federal government should come learn a few things with us here at Channels. In all of those turmoil, Channels didn't lose a job. We, in fact, employed more people. We opened more facility. More studios have been opened across the country. Increased our network base. So perhaps one or two things that we...
It's not the federal government that lost jobs.
I mean, there are jobs.
Excuse me, it's not the federal government that lost jobs. It's the private sector that is the largest employer of labor. And with the amount of money you are making from adverts in this campaign season, you clearly have the backbone now to make more investments.
I'm just setting the record straight.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We have actually added more staff.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
thank you.
This is a good season. So when you are reporting and your colleagues are reporting that Nigerian elections are expensive, let all the media houses own up to how much of it they collected.
All right, let's get back to it, Mr. Fashola. I wish I could go back to the works and all of those issues, but, well, I think I need to focus on another aspect of our conversation tonight. Let's get to it. There's so much that we need to discuss. Now, first and foremost, you made a lot of statements about the APC government. In fact, before the swearing in, you were very optimistic about what could be the performance of the Buhari government. You said at the time that as Nigerians voted out the Jonathan government, that if your government failed to perform, that Nigerians should vote them out. Do you think that Nigerians will obey or do exactly what you said that time?
So let me put it this way. We are a few days to the election now, less than 3 weeks. We have momentum. The APC will win this election. We are not looking at a coronation. We know it's a competition, but the opposition is behind, clearly behind. And let me tell you why. Election, as we all say, is a game of numbers, not so. Mm-hmm. But in those numbers, the mathematics of it, one of the principles, cardinal principles of election, is that election is a game of numbers, and the mathematics and arithmetic is about addition and multiplication. It's not about subtraction and division. So one of the cardinal problems that opposition has had is that they have divided. So it won't add up. And let me tell you why. The main opposition today, Labour, NMPP, PDP, were on one side in 2019. The totality of their votes was still 3-point-something million votes short of the vote by which we won. Now, if you were not enough when you were together, how can you be enough when you are broken up into three? Are you bringing more new people in from outside Nigeria? It's not going to add up. It's just that simple. People have made up their mind. And then all those self-serving polls that you see, I am happy that a lot of more people, especially in the elite cadre, are showing interest in our elections. I've been polling since 2002. This is the 21st year. And immediately you started, they came on your program to come and discuss those polls, 1,000 samples. I used to laugh when I watched them at home. They were self-serving. Sample base was inadequate. If you did basic probability in mathematics in secondary school, you would not know that those polls were either self-serving or they were totally incompetent or a combination of
Have you conducted your own polls?
Just a minute, let me finish. Just a minute. So you will see undecided number, 34, 40%. Where do you get that? The polls we have, a sample size that started with 20,000 people in 2014. And we were talking to those who have voted before, not those who have never voted. Likely voters who have voted before, and then those who promised that, oh, this was their first time. That was the base of our poll since 2014. Never been wrong. Let me also tell you that we've reduced the numbers now, but we don't do phone-in poll. In person, we've done a 5,000 sample polls. APC is clearly ahead.
With how many, what percentage?
I won't tell you that here. Don't worry. Let me tell you,
So,
to the undecided,
yeah.
the number of undecideds now averaging below 5%. So let me say to those undecided people, this is a job interview. And one of the things you should be looking at now is, first of all, what is the reference of the candidates from their previous employers? So no, please.
Just a moment. Before we get into that, Mr. Fashola.
You don't want to go there?
No, we will go there. But I asked a question earlier, and it's about what you said. And you were categorical.
I'm telling you that this is what the polls say we are going to win. I'm answering you. And I'm giving you the reason.
As your party deliver on the promises to Nigerians?
I'm telling you that we are going to win. Most of the promises that we made, we are working on them. We are evolving. We are making progress. In some places, we need to do more. And this is why we feel that we will be entrusted with the capacity to complete what we have started, because people can see the difference. One of the things you fail to see is that, look, even in the process leading up to the evolution of the candidates, right? One candidate became very polarizing, divided the country into two, polarized his party, divided it further. And then they went into subtraction. They lost some of their governors. We've gained more governors. So where is the path to victory? Except in those paid and sponsored polls, 1,000 sample, where 500 people don't participate. And so look, listen, this is empiric. The rubber is meeting the road now, and you will begin to see campaigns begin to lose steam. You know, when Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger used to compete and round each other's clothes, there was one season Alex Ferguson said, this is squeaky bum time. Now we're in squeaky bum time.
Until the special one.
We are on the home run now.
Until the special
and
one
you will see the seats will get hot. so this is where we are. We have the momentum, and we're not going to lose it.
I know you play football. I know you're a Man U fan. But at some point, there will be question, and you have changed coaches several times in that football club. Now, the idea is about the supporters who are, I can say they are Nigerians. And I'll get you back to the question I asked earlier.
Yeah.
Have you performed to the point that Nigerians will vote your party again?
We've been talking about the economic differences, for example. We've told you sectors that have gained strength. We've told you transport. We've told you truckers. We've told you haulage. We've told you ports that have been expanded. These are economic aids. There's always also a distance between policy and results. In terms of security, for example, in spite of all of what we have had to go through, which is really unfortunate, and let me be very clear about that, there's a marked difference, a real stark difference. And, you know, I came to Abuja in 2015, but before we get there, before 2015, two things were happening. Nigeria could not hold any of its public events, May Day rallies, ceremonial events, October 1 events, at the Eagle Square. We were hiding in the villa. That's not a vote for security. It's not a vote for security. All that has happened post-Buhari. For those who lived in Abuja here, let me remind them, all of the major public places, restaurants, bars, hotels, entertainment, these are jobs that were lost. They closed at 7, barricaded by sandbags. All of that has been turned around. Now, before Buhari, there was a denial that there were no children kidnapped at all from Chibok. Unfortunately, we haven't got all of them back. But something has moved significantly. I think over 200 and something of them have come back from denial. Unfortunately, Les Sharibu is still not recovered. But this is the difference. Now, the problem is that new problems have arisen. But the difference between us and them is that we solved the problems they denied existed. While they were hiding in the villa, we were out there confronting the problems. We haven't finished solving the problems, but there's a stark difference in momentum. We've moved the needle.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll get to...
And we didn't promise a life without security challenges.
Yeah, and because you promised 3 things, and because I need you to talk about...
Let me go to the third one, anti-corruption. Let me give you one example. You were talking about Lagos-Ibadan, second Niger Bridge. Part of the money that is building it was money that was stolen out of this country that Buhari has recovered, brought back in. So you will see the pattern. Money that left the country before Buhari, Buhari is the one bringing them back in. Because sometimes we just focus on anti-corruption, how many people have been jailed, how many people have been sectioned. Now, President Buhari just approved 114 billion, I think, about 2 weeks ago, monies recovered by law enforcement agencies to put into these 3 projects. Because we still don't have all the money to
Mr. Fashola, because of our time,
that is the difference.
Because I would like you to talk about the issue of electricity and Mr. Tinubu tonight. Because you were categorical about the issue of electricity. In fact, you said, stone us if you cannot give you light.
No, I didn't say that.
I didn't say stone us. What did you say, sir?
I never said stone us.
What did you say, sir?
No, I didn't say that. You got
on the performance of electricity.
Just calm down. Just calm down.
I'm calm. I'm the one that
One of the things that was said about me was that I said we would electrify Nigeria in 6 months. It was a lie that I allowed to run until the day I asked my media men, play the tape back. And since then, that lie has gone. Don't say things that I didn't say.
Okay, please correct the narrative.
I don't know
if it's
which
not
event
you have been correct. You have been quoted as saying, and I said
I'm a public servant.
Yeah.
I address the public from time to time. Just like you sit down here, can you possibly remember all of the things you have said in all your daily and nightly interviews from your head? That is logically impossible. So don't ask me to do the impossible. But if you give the context and the event and the date, I will tell you what I said. But I know that in my nature, the way I speak, I don't say those kind. I don't use words like stone. I'm not even a violent person. Stone is violence. I don't use those kind of words. They are not part of my vocabulary.
So, and I'll get you to talk about Mr. Tinubu just in a moment. So, in 2015, the inflation rate is about 9%. Now it's in double digits, over 20%. You see,
how many places has the inflation rate gone down across
just
the world?
a moment, sir.
No. How many places has the inflation rate gone down
just a moment.
Across the world?
If you allow me to ask the question.
How many places are there no cost of living challenges, whether in Europe or America?
Mr. Fashola, I'm very sure that you saw some few queues on the road.
Oh, yes, I did.
You saw how much of queues people are having at the banks.
I sympathize
and the videos
with Nigerians
so
what they are going through.
If people are going through these economic woes, how do you then convince Nigerians that your party deserves to be voted?
You are now interrupting.
No, I am the one asking the question. You did not allow
interrupting people.
Mr. You didn't allow me to ask the question. You were anticipating my question, but you didn't allow me to land. Please go ahead, sir.
So, in the process of interrupting me, I lost your question. Can you repeat?
I am saying the fear queues that we see on the road.
Because election 101 in 5 is coming up.
No, don't worry. We still have some 5 minutes more. Okay, and you will talk about Mr. Tinubu.
So tell me.
So I was asking, these economic woes that Nigerians are experiencing, the fear queues, the ATM, the queues they're having, the hurry time they're having to even get their own money. Nigerians are all buying Naira with Naira. How do you convince Nigerians that under the Buhari government that these things are happening? Please vote us again.
So let me say that, as I said earlier, I empathize with those challenges, and but some of them are the result of policy, and it is the responsibility of public servants, especially those responsible for those policies, to look back and say, did we intend to cause this pain? And if the policy is not working, perhaps you have to readjust and to also ask yourself whether you thought this through. As a public officer before and now, I have had cause to reverse myself when I saw that my policies were causing unintended results. And so I have no responsibility on those two areas, and therefore I cannot speak to the details of the facts that are available to the policymakers. But the important thing is that those policies are not yet delivering the results and are delivering a lot of inconvenience for people. And that is why our candidate was the first to speak out about it. Even though it was his party and that was in government, he was the first, and that is consistent with Asiwaju Tinubu's procedure as an activist, the fighter of the downtrodden, the champion of the downtrodden. And once he sees people in pain, so it was after he spoke that the others now found their voices. And one of them has now come back to say, okay, don't even extend it. What is he benefiting from contributing to the pain by saying don't extend it? Because it is clearly having consequences that are not intended. One of the consequences that is unintended is pain and inconvenience. And I think that every responsible policymaker should step back and say, hey, is this what we intended?
So, as a senior advocate of Nigeria, please weigh in on the breaking news that we're having right there on the screen. And two things are happening. 3 APC governors today took the federal government to court over the Naira redesign deadline, and another 14 political parties are threatening to boycott the election if the deadline is changed.
How does that have to do with senior advocate? They've gone
That's
to
a
court.
lawyer. I'm asking for your views.
They've gone to court. I haven't seen the court processes. I haven't seen what they filed. It would be extremely irresponsible of me to come here, to come and be talking about things I have no details about. I wasn't trained that way. Lawyers don't give opinion about facts that they don't have. No responsible lawyer. Anybody who does it is probably practicing another trade, not the profession I was trained in.
So you don't choose to comment on that?
I don't have the facts.
All right. So
you're expressing me to no, do you get it?
I got your point.
An opinion and without the facts.
It's taken. I got your point.
That's not
so
the
because
way to go.
it's relating to
it
the matter.
A baseless opinion.
No, it's relating to the matter in which you were talking about the policy of the central bank, the Naira note, and the controversy that
no,
generated.
The facts that I can talk about the policies that we see pain. I see people at ATMs. I see people in banks, crowded, struggling to get their money. I get feedback. I don't have cash too.
You don't?
I don't.
So the policy is not working?
Well, not at this moment.
Okay.
So it's causing unintended consequences.
And I'd like to ask you a rather, well, I wouldn't say it's an uncomfortable one. Bola Tinubu, why do you think he's the best man to be Nigeria's president?
Well, don't forget that we are running a democracy. So there are people who have their views about who should be the candidate and who should not be the candidate. But if you go back to the origins of democracy, it says let the will, the majority will. That was the will that prevailed in an open primary. That's our candidate. And so he's the legitimate candidate of our party. And our party has momentum to beat the other parties who used to be one and have now broken up into 3. And when they were one, their votes were not enough to beat us in 2019. Now that they've broken to 3, how can the sum total of 3 parts that was inadequate as one be able to take us? That's my answer.
I mean, and I think the interest of Nigeria should be paramount, isn't it? No matter what the game is or the end game may be like. In all of the competitors, 18 of them that will be on the ballot on the 25th of February, can Mr. Tinubu fix some of the problems of this country? He says he's coming on the slogan, renewed hope.
Yes. So, again, clearly, if you look at his track record in his previous public service experience, whether when he was senator, he chaired the largest committee of the Senate ever. They broken that committee into about 5. Banking, currency, I think appropriation and something. They broke it into about 4. If you look at his experience and his record as governor of Lagos, right? I've had cause to tell people, and I will repeat it again, many of his policies have gained widespread acceptance across Nigeria, including opposition states. 10 opposition states have passed Office of Public Defender law, his state-grown initiative to support people who did not have access to justice, who couldn't afford lawyers. LASA, to improve advertisement and revenue for local government, 15 states have passed similar laws. LASMA, his own state traffic management policy, 16 states have passed such laws. Judicial reforms, paying judges extra. From when he became governor, judges were earning 50-something thousand. It has become a national revolution. And I keep asking, if opposition and his own party have embraced his policies and ideas in governance, which is what we want to elect him to do, why are we hiding behind a finger? Even some of his colleagues who were in opposition states have joined him. They worked with him. So where are the other candidates? Who were the people who worked with him, with them? Who were their commissioners? Who were their former bosses? What did they have to say about them? These are the job recruitment requirements. That you are asking people, when channels want to recruit somebody, they will say, who did you work with? Won't you? What is your previous reference for where you are coming from?
What about his present capacity?
What is the issue about his capacity? He has run the hardest campaign. Wait a minute. He has run the hardest campaign, the toughest fought primaries. And even after that, he was the one going around, going to embrace people he defeated. And that shows his leadership quality, that this is not a winner-takes-all thing. This is nation building. And he's still campaigning. And I ask people, are any of you even able to do some of what this man is doing at his age, and you are doubting his fitness? You need to run his race first before you know whether he's fit or not.
All right.
You need to sleep the few hours he sleeps before you know whether you can do what he does.
We need to wrap up now and quickly too, Mr. Fashola.
I thought you said we had a lot of time.
No, not a lot of time, but we had some few minutes afterwards. I just have about 60 seconds, and I'll ask you two questions in that bit.
Two
questions in 60 seconds. 30 seconds a piece.
Do you really want me to answer them?
One of it is being the fact that in this race, if you had opportunity to choose anyone aside Bola Tinubu to vote for, who would that be?
Honestly, given what we have to choose, I will still choose Bola Tinubu. Because this is what is on the table. This is really what is on the table.
So compared to other candidates?
Is by record, by performance, by industry, by energy. Look, go and look at the tribute I wrote when he turned 60.
All right. So
you don't want me to answer again?
My final question is this, and this one...
The guy is built like a tank.
Yeah.
He looks frail. You think he's going to fall? He doesn't fall. You covered him, I think, in 2002.
Very well.
When he could barely get up to go to his campaign. And opposition was saying that, oh, if they elect him, he will die. He's still alive.
All right.
2002 to now.
Mr. Fashola, just in 30 seconds, APC governors suing
You underestimate him at your own peril.
APC governors suing APC government. Is the House divided against itself?
Well, you can try as much as possible, or some of you, some members of the Republic, can try to infect us with the virus, the G5 virus that has infected the other political party. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine for that virus. So, look, constitutionally, the courts are there to resolve disputes. I don't have the facts of this case. I'm getting them in studio, and I won't comment on those facts.
Mr. Fashola, I've interviewed you several times, and you have not changed. Thank you so much.
You are a good interviewer yourself. You are getting better, so you have changed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, Minister of Works and Housing. Thank you so much. And I wish you and your party the very best in the election.
Thank you, Shehu.
It's good to see you again.